Hi. Let's talk about Job for a minute. Job was a man who was a righteous man. In fact, God told all the angels that came to heaven one day, Job, there is none on the earth more righteous than Job. And so Satan said, the only reason Job is righteous is because you keep your hand of protection on him. And God said, okay, do what you will, but don't harm his body. Well, Satan came along, and in one single day, all of his riches were taken from him, and all 10 of his children were killed in a house. It was a tragic day. It was a horrible day for Job. But you know what? Job remained faithful. Then Satan came back to God and said, you know what? God said, well, did you check out Job? Is he still righteous? And Satan said, yeah, but you know what? If you would touch his health, he would turn against you and curse you. So go ahead, but do all that you want, but don't kill him. And so that's exactly what Satan did. He came along, gave him a disease, a terrible, awful disease that gave him boils from the crown of his head down to the soles of his feet. So much pain he couldn't move. He couldn't do anything. So he just put himself in a circle, ripped off all of his clothes, and sat in the dirt. That was about the most comfortable position he could put himself in. Now, he had 3 friends who showed up who tried to encourage him, but when you listen to some of the encouragements of these friends, you think, yeah, friends like this, who needs enemies, right? They kept trying to get him to curse God or convince him that he was some sort of sinner. Even his wife said, curse God and die. Well, guess what? Job didn't do that. He said silly things like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. He said silly things like, you know, though I suffer with these eyes, I shall behold my Redeemer. You know, Job went through a lot. He went through more than he lost 10 kids. He lost all of his money. He lost all of his riches. He's there, and his only friends are really sound like they just kind of glory in Job's misery. But he stayed faithful to God. He questioned God at times, but he stayed faithful to God. And when we look in Job chapter 42, the last chapter of the book, verse 12, it says, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep and 606,000 camels and 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 she-asses. Now, for that day and time, that was like he was a billionaire. Okay, he was a very wealthy man for that day and time. That God blessed his end more than his beginning. We're going through a lot of trials right now. I got a couple of people right now. A dear sister of our church, she lost her husband last week. It wasn't corona, but she lost her husband. She couldn't be with him in the hospital. You know what kind of worry that would have brought on to her? Or we have a sister in our church who's on a ventilator right now, and her daughters can't go up to the hospital to be with her. You know the kind of worry that's put upon them? Or I have a pastor friend right now that's on a ventilator. You know what kind of worry that puts on his wife and his church? You know something I've learned, and God still does that. Our latter days are better than our former days if we stay true to God. Don't give up, people. Stay true to God. God bless.